Okay, good afternoon all. I've just got an update from the Cayman Islands Fire Service for Monday today. During checks this morning at South Sound site, fire officers noted 4 hotspots. These were marked and are currently being dug out and cooled. As the smouldering areas are not progressing into fully developed fires, there is no naked flames and very little smoke issuing from the area. As such, the situation poses no risk to members of the public or surrounding properties. The Cayman Islands Fire Service continues to monitor the situation and is liaising with site owners. A fire safety inspector has visited both sites and carried out inspections. A report will be presented to site owners in due course. That's it.
Well, I was a bit worried about the safety of those fire chips. Are there any concerns about that from a fire officer?
Well, there's certain situations where you can store the aggregate, the chipped tyres, and provided, from our perspective, provided those regulations are adhered to, then to use them as storage or to use them as aggregate for building sites, then that's another question. All we do is look at the storage of the actual items.
How did it get going? How did the fire start? Do we know?
Well, it looks as though the fire started because of the size of the stack. You get spontaneous combustion.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so it looks like.
Very interesting. Just why does it get so hot that it starts to set on fire?
Well, because it starts to decompose, and when it starts to decompose, it generates heat. And if it's contained within an area where the heat can't dissipate, then it'll start to overheat.
So seeing as we're probably going to get a lot more of these types, what's the safest way to store them?
Well, the safest way to store them is by the regulations which are in place, and we will, in future, ensure that any storage areas will abide by those regulations.
But the critical issue was the mass of them all in one place was too much. Too many of them all in one place without any dissipation of the heat. Is that the critical issue?
Yeah, there's a certain height that these storage areas should be stored to, and if you exceed that height, then you increase the likelihood of spontaneous ignition.
Chief Hales, can I check with you, because this is like the 4th time now since Friday, or at least the 3rd, that you felt that it was out, but it obviously keeps reigniting or smouldering in some way. So is this a case of but it's happening in so many places that you're not necessarily able, your fire crews are not necessarily able to track that? I'm just trying to work out why it is all the way since Friday we've had these reports saying, oh, it's fine now, it's fine now, it's fine now, it's fine now, and then it's with more hotspots. If you could explain that for the...
Yeah, so the area where the storage is quite a large area, and what's happening is whilst we're excavating the areas which are showing signs of ignition, we're cooling the whole areas. And then what's happening over time is the cooling is dissipating because the heat is drying out the water, and then we then notice that there are other areas as well which are giving off small amounts of smoke. So what we're doing is we're identifying those areas, marking them off, and then excavating the tyres from the area, and then cooling down those areas.
Is this pile mixed with aggregate, or is it just pure rubber?
Predominantly pure rubber. There are a few other things in there like soil, vegetation, which have just been picked up as probably contaminants whilst the process has been going on. But it's virtually rubber.
Sorry, just to clarify, obviously this is a storage issue, so you said in an earlier release that you were working with the developer to make it safe. So what have you told them about this problem? Like, what's the conversation about in terms of getting it safer?
Well, we've immediately told them that they need to reduce the height of the piles to below 10 feet, and that's what they're doing at the moment. We've also had inspections carried out this morning by our fire safety inspector, and a report is being compiled at this time to pass on to the owners of the sites.
Can you give me just a rough idea of the dimensions of this storage area? I mean, how big it is? Just give me an idea, because I've got no idea.
The storage areas are quite large, so you're looking at around about nearly 150, 200 feet on one of them, by about 75 feet wide, and then the other site is a lot less than that.
But the critical factor for determining the self-combustion that is going to happen is more the height.
It's more the actual amount of material in one area, because, as I said earlier, you don't give the decomposing materials a chance to dissipate heat away from the area if it's compacted into an area which is insulated by the rest of the tyres around it. So heat builds up inside, and it'll reach its auto ignition temperature and start to combust.
Probably going off the subject, does that ever happen with any other bulky materials that are stored? Is it a general thing? Or is
Yes, it's a general thing. Yes, yeah. For instance, if you've got a haystack, if you pack it too tightly, exactly the same will happen in a haystack. So organic materials which decompose generate heat whilst they do this, and if the heat can't dissipate, then they are susceptible to catching fire.
Chief Hales, can you just say, as a firefighter, is it safe to use this kind of material as an aggregate or a fill for land, especially if you're going to have development on it? I mean, I don't know, is it possible for it to continue to smoulder if it's used as fill and then people are building on it or whatever? But I don't know. So,
that would all depend on the amount of material that's being used, and I think there are stipulations as to the amount of material which can be used in building works. I'm not 100% sure of what they are, but I believe that there are stipulations on the amount of material that can be used.
So if it was used as a regular aggregate in an edifice or in a whatever, it wouldn't pose the same risk, because it wouldn't be presumably be mixed with other things. So
Yeah, and it'll be more thinly laid out.
yeah.
There's been lots around the world, lots and lots of storage areas containing tyres which have spontaneously combusted. I'm not aware of any building site where that's happened. There may have been, but I'm not aware of it.
I mean,
But I'm certainly aware.
Pose any intrinsic threat to a building where this was used as it should be used.
If they stick to rules, regulations, and stipulations, I'm only surmising, but I wouldn't have thought it would create any threat to the building.
No, okay, good.
Hey, good afternoon, Chief. Ken Silva with the Compass. Has it been determined that any specific regulations have been broken in the storage of this material? And if so, what specific regulations were skirted?
As I said, we carried out our fire inspections of the sites this morning, and the reports are currently being compiled. So we first of all we provide that information to the owners of the sites, and at this time those reports are still being compiled. So I don't know the results of that yet.
Okay, who's the owner of the site?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, Davenport Development is the owner of the site at the back of Vela.
Okay, and how exactly are fire officers cooling the hot spots?
So what's happening is the hotspots are identified, and then an excavator digs down to where the hotspots are, exposing them, and then we put water onto that area.
Okay. That brings me to my next question. This may be totally false, but I heard that rain actually may play a part in the smoldering. I was told that the rain, kind of like when the road gets wet and it draws, the oil to the top, that the same thing's happening with this tire material. Is that the case, or am I?
There are various factors that would contribute to the decomposition of the material. Certainly the main one for our concern is the compression of it by the height of the stack. So our main initial concerns were to get the height of the stack down to an acceptable level. That's meant that the stack has to have been spread over a wider area for that to happen. But we're in the process of ensuring that is carried out as soon as possible.
Thanks.
The developers doing that. They're using their excavators and soil removers to do that, and we're standing by whilst they do it. Actually, what's happened today is the site has been excavated, and we haven't seen any reignition of any of the fires, and no smoke's being given off today. So we're continuing to monitor the site with the developers.
All right, last question. It's been disputed that this has been a fire at all. Is it fair to characterize this as a fire?
It's not a fully developed fire. It's a smouldering fire, but not fully developed. If it had have progressed to a fully developed fire, then we'd have been faced with a far worse situation than what we're faced with at the moment. Okay, thank you very much.